Hey, how's it going and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very controversial topic to talk about, so get ready because oh boy, it's about to get spicy. Typically on Twitter, it's safe to say drawing nappy hair or dark skin or even just drawing simple black characters is commonly misinterpreted in 7 out of 10 fan art images or just black edits and is outrightly considered as problematic by black artists within the art community. For some reason, drawing black people or just painting or coloring dark skin is somehow difficult, and sometimes it just feels like some colors miraculously disappear from the color palette in drawing programs that these artists are using, which makes me wonder if me and other black artists are using these same programs, or maybe we're just built different. The common excuses artists use to defend themselves on Twitter anytime they get called out for whitewashing a canonically black character, or just any random black character drawing, are usually one of these pretty lame excuses. Oh, I was using pastels as a base for my color palette, so all the colors are brighter. The character is being hit by a colored light source, so it raised their skin tone 3 shades lighter, but let's not talk about it. My art style is really unique and different, and so is the way I draw black people. Now for starters, having a super fancy or ridiculously unique art style has nothing to do with how you draw a specific race, especially if your drawing is ridiculing specific traits that particular race has, or you're just literally making fun of features of the particular race and making them look pretty awkward. And I'm sure people will want to bring the argument of,
oh, I'm a caricature artist, so I'm allowed to draw people funny and make fun of their features.
Now, while that is true, you can also do it in a polite and morally appropriate way without drawing them looking like things we will rather not see or even want to talk about. I always love it when people use the excuse of the light source being a different color and somehow that just affects the skin and makes it brighter. But when it's a drawing of any other person that isn't black, the skin tone literally just stays the same all through, as if it's not even affected by the light source at all. Which is such a funny excuse because it is not complicated. As surprising as that sounds, a bright light source will definitely affect the skin, but it doesn't entirely change the skin color or even bleach the skin, making it 2 shades brighter like a bad skin product. Now I understand pastel tones are generally brighter than regular colors, even when you're using the same tones, but if you have your skin tone looking lighter than the rest of the tones in your image, then that's generally not a pastel palette, but an intentional omission, or intentionally neglecting to carefully select the right colors for your work. Now this is a very controversial topic, especially on Twitter, and it has literally made people clash heads in multiple threads that end up looking longer than traffic during rush hour. And most times you'll find people leaving hot takes like this, which end up starting the dumpster fire these threads end up becoming. If you like a character being black when they're white, or you like a character being white instead of black, that's your opinion preference and that's fine, there's no problem. But if you see it as or make it racist, you're the problem. This is an extremely hot take because sometimes trolls just use opinions like this as fallback remarks and generally hide behind statements like this whenever they make funny looking art in an attempt to be racist or troll black artists on the internet. But trust Twitter to do its thing. Whenever you're trying to be smart and leave witty comments, there's always someone to counter your opinion with appropriate reasoning. Please do not ignore the history of whitewashing and systematic racism in media. Purposefully lightening the skin of a character does not have the same context as trying to add diversity, which is usually the reason I see for darkening a character. Hats off to this person. Although I'm not wearing a hat right now, but hats off to them still. No further explanation is required to drive my point home here. If this person was an Uber driver, I'll have to give him a 5-star rating for driving my point home. A lot of people in general don't understand the concept of whitewashing, much less to contribute in perpetuating the idea with their artworks. Please, if you're really concerned, then there's a better approach in educating people than instantly stepping them on their faces. And this was in response to a person who took an artist's work and fixed it themselves by making the character darker, but also claiming they had equal rights as the artist to download the image and manipulate it by fixing the character and making it black. Which is totally false. Totally wrong. Please don't do this ever. But then this Twitter user posted an image that just explains what is and what isn't considered as whitewashing in art. And I hope everyone can learn from this. This is Marina, directly color picked from her official art. My wife. This is whitewashing. There is no reason to blatantly change her race in your art. And I can't see how this can't be motivated by racism. And now, if you take a closer look at both images, you can see the colors in her hair, her eyes, and her clothes generally remain the same, but her skin tone has drastically changed. Wow. Talk about enlightenment. This is not whitewashing. Artists don't need to color pick every character when they draw them. I usually color pick characters and then shift their hues slightly when laying down the colors to suit my style better. It is not whitewashing to not use the exact model's colors. Now in this version, you can see all the colors are not exactly the same as the original character, but they all are within the same tonal value structure, and the skin is not off from what it was originally. Although it may be slightly desaturated than the original, but the other colors are all muted and the hues shifted slightly as well, creating a similar color palette as the original character. This is also not whitewashing. This uses a pastel theme and everything here is lightened, including her clothing and tentacles. If her skin were lightened this much in a neutral drawing, that's probably not great. But this is an entire palette swap. You can still tell she's supposed to have dark skin. Well, thank you for that breakdown, Doc Cook. That's such a nice name. Imagine Doc Ock, but he's like a chef and he's now Doc Cook, and all the tentacles are just holding like frying pans and like other cooking items and utensils, and he's like Doc Cook, but not Doc Ock. That would be wild. Thank you for the breakdown, Doc Cook. You just did the community a massive favor. I also went through all the other comments and replies on that tweet, and there were some pretty interesting opinions. There was also another tweet that also broke down whitewashing and how to properly paint dark skin, but sadly the tweet was deleted. But I ended up going back to an old thread that still had useful information on painting dark skin, and it was still written by the same person that had the previous tweet that was deleted. So all the information on there is pretty much correct, and the person is an amazing artist. And I think if you're trying to understand painting black skin as well, you can go read that thread. I'll leave a link in the description. I think there's a ton of useful information on painting dark skin in that thread, and I think it might probably be useful to you if you're trying to understand and get better at painting dark skin. Or you could also just pause the video and read the notes on screen if that's what you prefer to do, or you just don't have time to go on Twitter and look for the thread. Now, as you can see, this is pretty controversial and every artist has their own approach to painting skin, but most of the time all the techniques pretty much follow the same basic fundamental steps. Choosing a variety of colors. Black skin, much like every other skin tone, is made up of tons of different colors and subtle hues that shift depending on the atmosphere surrounding your character, the amount of light hitting it, and even the skin type. I think black skin has more color shifts than every other skin tone, especially if you're trying to paint it realistically. Dark skin tones vary from different shades of brown to browns with subtle orange hints and go all the way into the reds. Areas in shadow are usually warmer and push towards deeper reds for some skin tones, but the colors could always change depending on the situation. Reflectivity. Dark skin is quite reflective to some extent, so it's normal to see colors around the skin skin or even from the sky reflected back into the skin, especially when it's being hit by an ambient light source, for example on a cloudy, dull day. Now this is mostly apparent with people who have really dark black skin tone, especially in like mid-African countries like Kenya and Senegal, and some people from Sudan have really dark skin as well. Now when they're out and about on like a cloudy day where they're maybe standing in shadow, you'll see their skin push towards blues and other cool tones, which is mostly just reflection from the sky and other things surrounding them, and sometimes it will push towards greens and other earthy tones when they are near trees or leaves. Now this doesn't mean you should just paint black characters and throw in a bunch of colors because you think their skin is super reflective. Take the time to do studies so you can understand when and where to use these colors and what type of situations these colors exist in. And then you can understand how to properly approach choosing colors for each of these situations. Hands and feet. While other skin types may have brighter palms and soles of their feet, it's more glaring and apparent on dark skin, and it's probably one of the most overlooked parts of painting and coloring dark skin. Even I forget sometimes. The palms of the hand and soles of the feet are lighter than the back of the hand and other parts of the skin. So no matter what art style you're drawing or painting is, remember to keep the palms and soles of the feet at least 2 shades lighter than the rest of the skin. The nails are usually brighter, but you can literally just paint them however you would want to paint them, especially since some people might have colored nails. Blush and freckles. These are kind of optional and you can add them if you want to, since dark skin generally does not have blush like how white skin has, but sometimes makeup artists add a subtle blush on the skin when they're doing makeup, so that's something you can keep in mind as well. These are mostly the main things to consider when painting dark skin. And just quickly, I would like to give a quick shout out to the artist Vigalia on Twitter. She has a lot of good resources and videos on painting dark skin, and I found out about her when I was making my last video on art advice on TikTok, so go watch that video if you haven't. But she's super amazing and you should definitely check out her TikTok videos. And most importantly, she has an online store with all the brushes she uses in her work, especially for hair, which is extremely helpful if you're trying to paint braids and other hairstyles for dark skin.
Straight hair brushes are the default in many drawing softwares, but why not curly hair? I say this because I make curly hair and protective style brushes, and some people are disqualifying using them when straight hair brushes are literally the default in these softwares. Procreate noticed my statement and said they were bringing it up to their official brush author to see what they can do about the default brushes. They then recommended my brushes for anyone looking for hair brushes. But being the #1 curly hair and protective style brush designer in the world, I think it'd be cooler if we worked together. What do you think?
So if you're trying to speed up your painting process, you should definitely go check out her store and show some support by buying a brush pack or 2. Anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mohammed Agbadi, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Alright, pretty penguins, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.